We are now officially into the second half of the year as far as anime seasons are concerned, and we are starting to get a better picture on exactly what shows we might start talking about to be best of year. Well, the last two seasons have given us several good contenders, some expected and some from out of nowhere. Unless you read the manga, summer is traditionally when things get kicked into high gear, and this upcoming season is no exception. So today we are going to be looking at 5 anime that, based off of the information we have now, have a good chance to be contenders for the best of the season, or even the best of year. Though admittedly, I have limited the list to shows that are currently confirmed to be available on legal streaming services, both so that I don't end up rambling on about a multitude of shows that you could potentially not have the time to watch anyway, besides like a few of them, and also because I could just literally spend the entire length of this video gushing over Maidens of the Savage Season, because it's an adaptation of Mari Okuda's writing, but I'll spare you that fanboying until its own separate video. Also, I guess I should mention up front, I'm not going to be talking about the Danmachi sequel, because I've not been the biggest fan of that series, so of course I wouldn't consider it in the running for best of season. Fight me. So now that we're all settled and hopefully prepared for the summer heat, we should get started. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Crunchyroll. Visit the link in the description for a free 14-day trial of their premium service so you can keep up to date on many of the anime we will be talking about in the video today. This video is also brought to you by viewers like you via our Patreon campaign. For those who support Glass Reflection in this manner, thank you. Now, when we talk about summer, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For me, it's heat. So let's start with that. 1 year ago, David Production made an anime about what happens to the cells in our body through everyday life. Now they are adapting a manga about bodies that spontaneously combust and how society deals with this when it occurs on a massive worldwide scale. In Fire Force, most of the world has been engulfed in flames. An unknown phenomenon has started to turn people into infernal beings of pure fire that leave destruction in their wake. Eventually, however, humanity decides to fight fire with fire. Newer generations of humans find themselves able to control or emit fire while not being consumed by it, thereby maintaining human form. So many of them have been placed into special companies with uniforms not unlike traditional firefighters to combat the infernals and save society from burning to the ground. The story seems to be focusing on a young recruit named Shinra who joined the Special Fire Force Company 8 to team up with other flame users and fight the various threats. Considering this comes from the same mangaka as Soul Eater, a variety of things native to action shonen should be expected. Lovingly animated by the team over at David Production for all to see. We don't know yet exactly how long this series is going to air, but it is possible that this will end up being a multi-core production. There's definitely enough material for it, as the manga is pushing 16 volumes at present, and Soul Eater went on for a whole 52 episodes when it only had 14 volumes out by the time the anime wrapped up. Although, manga readers were quite disappointed in Soul Eater's ending, so perhaps it's best not to hope for too much there. So, instead of the world being covered in fire and burning people alive, in Dr. Stone we instead get a flash of light of unknown origin that petrifies all of humanity for several thousand years. Everyone on the entire planet is turned to stone, but not necessarily dead. After millennia have passed, 2 high school students are able to break free of the stone through sheer force of will. They decide to rebuild society with the power of science! But of course, their goals are not accepted by everyone who ends up breaking out of the stone with them. Dr. Stone is mostly on my radar because people I follow in the manga community have been talking my ear off about it non-stop since 2017, but for a long time I never bothered to look into the series itself. Though I still haven't beyond a cursory glance at promotional material for this video. But it also is a very good example of why you shouldn't do as I do and base initial impressions off promotional art alone. Looking at just the anime poster, if someone told me that this anime was called Dr. Stone and has a guy holding what could potentially be a bong, I'd believe them and come away with a very different idea on what this show is about. But it's not a bong, it's a beaker, because science. While I admit I'm not necessarily sold on the narrative of the show yet, it's the production behind it that has my interest piqued. There's stellar music in the trailers, and the character designs look awesome. So this might be a series that I watch for its production, only to fall in love with the narrative later. But time will tell. Every season I like to dig around to find a wild card type show that I don't necessarily see people talking about, but has enough style or flair to it that I could possibly see it becoming a surprise hit. This season, my wild card is an anime called To the Abandoned Sacred Beasts. It's a dark fantasy anime from Studio Mappa, following the history of a fantasy continent called Patria, assuming I'm pronouncing that right. It contains two warring countries to the north and south, and the war eventually ends when one side chooses to use a forbidden technology on its soldiers, turning them into godlike beasts called incarnates. Now, with the war at its end, one of these soldiers is on a mission to find fellow incarnates, those who chose to forego their human forms, and hunt them down. Now, really, this series has a few things going against it. Firstly, it's an action series trying to fight alongside not only those shows airing at the same time, but following some stellar ones from seasons past. Its staff, barring the studio itself, is mostly unknown, and the roles that we do know give me pause. Like the director, who is more familiar with romance anime than dark fantasy. But that's why I have it as a wild card. I'm totally down for people to surprise me with things unpredictably, and Studio Mappa has rarely let me down before. But you know, even if I'm wrong and it does disappoint me, I have other fantasy shows on my watch list, such as Waver's back, baby! While many different anime entries of Type Moon's Fate universe either exist in alternate realities or are so far off the beaten track that they could never be anything even possibly considered canon, the Case Files of Lord Elmen II is a mystery anime that takes place 10 years after the events of Fate Zero, following the story of the formerly young and inexperienced Master of Rider Alexander. Now he is currently an instructor at the Mage Association's London Clock Tower, as he has taken over the role left by Kenneth Elmen, Master of Lancer. Episode 0 of this anime actually became available last December as a brief preview of what is to come, especially since, as with far too much in the Fate franchise, the original novels for Lord Elmen II have never received an official English translation. But for fans of Waver's character from Zero, if you want to check out how this guy's evolved, how he came to have a young apprentice who looks exactly like franchise favorite Saber, or if you might instead enjoy watching him get stepped on by a girl many years his junior before attempting to solve mysteries in the Fate universe, then this series is for you, as much as it is for me. To be clear though, I'm watching this for Gray. The whole getting stepped on isn't really my thing. Last up, we look at a series for people who have previously thought to themselves, man, Attack on Titan is still freaking amazing. I hope Wit Studio keeps that up for other projects that they work on. Vinland Saga is a historical action series that has been in print since the manga was first released back in 2005. It is written by the same mangaka who penned the fantastic science fiction series Planetex, which conveniently is also one of my favorite sci-fi anime ever. Can you tell I'm biased? This story is a somewhat fantastical account of events taking place in 1030 AD, using many plot points and characters from the events of the time in England and the titular Vinland. Vinland, for those not aware, was the name given to the specific part of North America by the then Vikings several hundred years before Christopher Columbus would come along and claim that he was the first. While the actual modern-day location of Vinland is a topic of much discussion and controversy among scholars, it is generally believed to be what is now known as Atlantic Canada, with several accounts describing locations native to the Isle of Newfoundland, conveniently where my family is from. Can you tell I'm biased? None of that really has much to do with the actual narrative, though, potentially. The manga itself, though evoking the names of the two great sagas detailing the Norse exploration of North America, actually starts in England at the start of the 11th century. The story follows the young Thorfinn, who is raised by the very Vikings who killed his family, and he has the desire to one day grow strong enough to kill the Viking band's leader. But he also dreams of a place from the stories of Leif Erikson, a place called Vinland. So this anime has a narrative by a writer I trust, is produced by a studio that has consistently proven that they know what they're doing, and contains subject matter somewhat close to my family's home. Damn right I'm excited for Vinland Saga. And I realize that this summer season is like the season of action titles. And perhaps that is a bit too much of one kind of anime. But really, every show that I focused on today has the potential to be worth your time and to succeed at being one of the best of the year. Not all of them will achieve this, obviously, but I look forward to watching them all regardless, as the summer heat slowly melts me into nothing. So there it is, my brief take on the highlights of the upcoming season and what I personally will be watching. At least until any of them prove that I had a bit too much faith in my potential enjoyment of them. Were there any shows that I missed, shows I unfairly skipped over? Hi Dunmachi fans. Let me know down in the comments. As stated before, most of the anime listed today is available from this video's sponsor, Crunchyroll, with Vinland Saga being the only exception, as that one is going to be available over on Amazon. But for the Crunchyroll shows, feel free to click on the link in the description for a 14-day trial of Crunchyroll's premium service if you find yourself in need of it. Lastly, I would like to give a special thank you, as I am wont to do, to my patrons who never cease to humble me with their continued support. I love and appreciate you all. And an even bigger thank you to patrons Rune Jacobson, Joshua Garcia, Calhoun Boy, Matthew Robertson, Hector Montemayor, Sir Yamako, Ryfan Bonaparte, and Richard Emile Bradley for being extremely awesome. And until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.